Welcome to the Porchetta 100, a sporting clays competition with a name rooted in one of Italy's oldest traditions. For over 2,000 years, porchetta has been more than just roasted pork. It's been a centerpiece of festivals, feasts, and even gatherings. So just like the dish, this event is about more than just clays. It's about bringing people together and enjoying the great outdoors. So stay tuned and let's get into it. My day started on the Super Sporting course. Now the Super Sporting course is a relatively new addition to the club, and let me tell you, it is a real gem of a 5-stand course. It has rolling hills, limited sight lines, playing with backgrounds and light are all things that you can expect from this course. So as I stood nervously waiting for the start time at stand 1, I reflected on how I was going to approach these targets. Luckily, stand 1 was a very fairly set stand. A stand I probably should have straighted, but caution and beginning nerves kept my hands from moving as they should, and it did cost me 2 targets, but still not a bad way to start the day. Now stand 2 had a little bit more spice poured on the target, particularly the A target in this case. Between picking up the bird and getting on the line, you had very little time to examine the lead, so you needed to have a good hold point and an aggressive move to get the job done. I gave away more targets than I should have due to a lapse in concentration, and I still had some starting nerves, but it was an enjoyable station nonetheless. A short walk down the hill revealed stand 3, which was nestled at the bottom of a ravine.
Are you ready? Paul.
We had a quartering away target, incoming target, high right to left crosser, as well as a low left to right lob crosser. There was targets headed in every direction. There was even an issue with sunlight coming down the hill, so there was no shortage in technical elements on this station. Had a pretty good run going until the last pair. I dropped one of the quartering away targets, which was a little disappointing. However, I was really enjoying the technicality of this course.
Out of the pool, buddy. Good shooting. Yep. Yep. Dead.
A little further up the path was peg 4, and again this station was completely different than the previous stations.
Bang. Ball.
To start off, we had 2 rising teals fired up through the trees. We had a quartering away target as well as a right to left chandelle that was fired around some obstacles. I have found in recent shoots that I tend to miss the targets that I feel are give me targets. So I gave most of my energy to the teals in this station and how I was going to tackle the true pair that ended the stand. My plan was to shoot the low bird first, followed by the high bird. However, when it came time to pull the trigger, I accidentally shot the high target first, which left me having to recover the low target. I was lucky enough to pull off the move, and that left me with a 9 on this station.
Okay. You guys ready?
The final and 5th stand on the course is probably what I would consider the most technical stand on the Super Sporting course. I particularly appreciated the C target on this station. A little pre-preparation of body positioning in the box would open up the angle and give you the much needed time to break the target before it is stuck behind the tree. But for those who miss this detail, they usually drop this target. A great little detail, but I did really appreciate the target setting on this station. Now that was a wrap on the Super Sporting course, and I must say it left me wanting to shoot more stands. It is a vastly different game from sporting clays, as some of you may know, and it really tests your ability to read the targets and get it right the first time. If you have the opportunity to do it, I highly suggest it. After the super sporting course, it was time for some much needed lunch. So we stopped for some sustenance, shared some laughs with some friends, watched a few rounds of a make or break competition, and recharged for the main event. This main event consisted of 19 different stands, and as an added challenge, 7 of those stands were limited to 2 pairs per stand. We kicked things off on peg 14, which was right in the thick of the 4-bird stands. We had a quick right to left quartering away chandelle, followed by a curling away trap target. Now I had a pretty good handle on this station, but I did mismount my gun on the last bird and I ended up shooting over top. All I can say is I really need to stop doing that. We moved to stand 15 and got after the mini tower true pair. It was a true pair of going away targets, but I was having difficulty picking up which pair I was going to shoot first. I think the uncertainty was a big part of why my moves were twitchy, but I ended up dropping 2 targets on the station, which should have been easy. Walking down the road, the heat was really starting to turn up. We had a big report pair of crossing targets, one from the right, the other from the left. I'm not sure if it was the big blue sky in the background, but I struggled to put the lead required to kill these targets. I missed the first 3 birds, so for the last bird I decided I was just going to push out in front of it as far as I could, and it happened to be exactly what that target needed. It was a really good reality check that I was shooting cautiously and needed to make some adjustments, or today was going to be painful. Stand 16 had a true pair of close flying targets, one being a standard target, the other a Batu. This pair I felt was set to wreak havoc on your focus. I chose to shoot the standard target early so I could quickly square up on the Batu before it dropped beneath my barrel. This turned out to be a good plan for me because I walked away with my first 6 of the day. It never ceases to amaze me how wrong you can read a set of targets. Stand 17 to me looked like a pair I should be able to handle no problem, but the target setter had me beat on this one. I just couldn't get in sync with this pair and I walked away dropping 3 more targets. At this point, being several stands in, I was trying to figure out what may be the issue. I think the 2 pair stands were having an effect on my rhythm, which is something that I wouldn't have thought of walking into today, but it was something different. So I shook off the disappointment of stand 17 and regrouped for the true pair of going away targets at 18. I really needed a 6 at this point, and luckily enough, the clay gods were kind enough to oblige. So walking into stand 1, I was a little bit more confident to deal with the crafty true pair with the impossible timing. Now on this station, it wasn't till the last pair and me moving my hold point back to the barrier, which felt like something I shouldn't do, that gave me the gun speed to kill the first target early enough so I could connect to the looper and kill the pair. Now it turns out I chose to shoot this pair the wrong way around. So hats off to the target setter because you got me. One of the most valuable things of shooting events at different clubs with different course setters is every one of them has a different style. Stand 2 was all about testing your footwork. The second target breakpoint was so far from the first target, the amount of twist required to capture both targets was immense. I set myself to be more comfortable with the second shot and allowing my body to uncoil through the first target and more through the second target was the ticket for this station. Stand 3 had a true pair of targets that I was fairly comfortable with. I chose to shoot the higher target first, which is unusual for me, but I felt I would have more time to join up with the second target and break it before it hit the ground than shooting it the other way around. The last of the 4-bird stations presented itself on peg 4. It was a low through the trees crossing target, followed by a nice high ripping away left to right crosser. I knew I would be okay on the first target, but the limited shooting window on the second was cause for some concern. The secret for me on this pair was to make sure I had a really good hold point for the second target, which allowed me to swing through the target quickly before it got too far away. Now, if you've been watching some of my past videos, you will know I struggle with high descending going away targets, specifically on this station. Both targets needed a healthy amount of lead on this station, and believe it or not, I was much more uncomfortable with the second target than the first. I forced myself to push out in front of the second target until my brain was screaming at me to pull the trigger, which was the ticket for success on this station. It was a stressful station, but I managed to pick up 5 of the 6 targets.
Well done.
Get in there, Bill. Yes. Good finish.
Now the next station had something I have not seen before. It consisted of 2 trap machines and a trampoline. Both clays were not especially difficult on their own, but the timing of this true pair forced you to shoot the second well into the drop. I needed to make sure that I told myself I had lots of time to shoot it, and that was the ticket to success on this one.
Just bend at the knees.
By this point in the day, I was starting to get into a roll. My confidence was rising, and I was no longer shooting with caution. I figured on this station I would tackle the departing teal before moving into the crosser, which gave me the added benefit of doubling up on the first 2 pair.
Yo, you got involved with my shot! Oh, yeah.
Feeling good, I went after the last pair, but I had to use 2 shells to get the job done.
I couldn't make it 3 for 3.
You have to show off, hey, you did 2 with the 1 shot, too.
Stand 8 had a report pair that was fired beneath your feet. It had an incomer followed by outgoing away target. Not a particularly challenging pair, but as I'm reminded too often in this sport, never take a pair for granted, as that is when you get burned.
All over top of it.
I overcooked the second target and shot over top of it twice. My mistake was trying to shoot the target too quickly, and I rushed the move. It was a weak moment on my part, but that's the game. A good pair of crossing targets were on the menu at the next station. Now, I did misread the first target and I underlet it, which was a bit of a surprise, but I put on my big boy pants for the rest of the stand and cleaned the rest of the station. Rounding the final corner of the course, we had a target that I have struggled with too often in the past, but I remembered my past transgressions and I knew I needed to make a very small, gentle move on the first target. It looked like I wasn't even moving the gun, but my approach worked. Now, only if I didn't overcook one of the moves on the second target, I would have straighted this station. Stand 11 had a challenging 40-yard crossing target that left from center field and went further to the left. I ended up measuring the first target and I shot behind it, but I identified my error and I was able to reset and push out in front, and I killed the rest of the stand. For the first time, I started to feel like I was in the zone. something that I've only ever felt when I was in practice, so it was nice to feel it in a competition. I was truly enjoying shooting this course, and it ended on, for our squad, with one of the biggest targets of the day. Stand 13 was nestled at the bottom of a valley, and we had this big rolling 60-yard target, followed by possibly one of the highest targets I have seen in some time. It was a great pair to end the course. And all right, that is all we have for today, folks. I do appreciate everybody watching. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. It really helps the channel out, and make sure that you get notified when new content is released. And as an added bonus, the Triggered Outdoors merch shop is finally open. So if you're interested in checking some of that stuff out, there's some links down below. And until the next video, stay sharp, stay focused, stay triggered.